Hello, welcome to Gunfighter Life. As always, I am your host, Michael Melito. First and foremost, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that. It's first and foremost in everything that I do. This podcast is no different. God gets credit for everything that I do, everything that I've done, all the good things. I realize you don't have to be a Christian to listen to this podcast, but it's certainly going to come out, so I'm just telling you ahead of time. A little bit about me and why I did this podcast. I wanted to give some real-world perspective and opinions on different things that I actually had experience with, not just somebody that has theories that have never tested them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted to give this because I kind of saw a gap of people putting out podcasts with real-world experience. There are a few. But let's go ahead. I'll give my bio real quick as it pertains. I grew up hunting and shooting at a very early age. Some of my earliest memories and earliest pictures are of me running around with guns. So at a very early age, I started doing that. I started hunting at a very early age, more than is legal in most states nowadays. I did my first formal shooting competition in 1998 while I was still a young man. I've won gold medals. I've won state championships and regional championships in rifle and pistol. I've competed in all kinds of disciplines, from like precision rifle to steel challenge, which if you don't know is like drag racing with a pistol going as fast as you can. So I've done that and everything in between. I've competed in muzzleloader and archery and all different manner of things. I've been very blessed to win more competitions than I can remember. I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I did 2 combat tours where by God's grace I made it back safely. My primary job, carrying a rifle in the infantry, what you think of as your classic Marine rifle. I was an assaultman, which doesn't exist anymore, but which is a specialized infantryman. So gunfighting, obviously my bread and butter. 2 combat tours in Iraq for the initial invasion, and a few years later, after that, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps, urban desert warfare, and everything that goes along with that. After that, I went to work for the LAPD, where by God's grace, again, I made it out of there safely. I worked some of the nastiest streets in the country. Nastiest streets in LA are some of the nastiest streets in the country. I worked regular assignments and some more specialized assignments, and obviously carrying a gun the whole time. And sometimes, well, let's just say God brought me out of that in one piece, and I'm very thankful. And, not because I'm anything special, but just because He chose to. And I also served the United States Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard, a few different states. I had several different MOSs, most of them combat arms. I've done that. I've also been a professional firearms instructor for the FBI, a bunch of other 3-letter government agencies, NRA certified. I've been a professional firearms instructor at some of the biggest academies in the country, and by that measure in the world. If I said them, you would know, but they're not affiliated with this podcast. We'll leave them out. Also, my day-to-day job is as a full-time. I'm very blessed to be the head of a tactical team, a response team, where gunfighting is very much the backbone of what we do. And I'm very blessed to be the commander of that. And just last night, I went in for training. Late last night, we did room clearing tactics, going over that again. Like I said, I'm very blessed. It's my day-to-day life. So I'm coming at this from a real perspective. I don't brag on any of that. That's all. I'm very humbled to have been a part of any of that stuff. But just know that I come at this from a real-world perspective. Today we're going to dig into part 3 of survival guns, the battle rifle. And there's a bunch of different names. The battle rifle, the main battle rifle, the assault rifle, I don't know, take your pick, the modern sporting rifle. But we all know what I'm talking about. A weapon of war. And most of you would probably think maybe that I would go there first for survival guns, but I'll tell you why I've waited till now. It is not my first pick. If you haven't listened to shotguns or 22s for survival, then you should go back and check those out, because it's all laid out there. But I'll give you why I did this in part 3, the battle rifle. And don't get me wrong, I think every American should own a rifle like this. For one, they're great for a lot of things. And I think just as an American, everybody should own one. Obviously, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But the quintessential assault rifle, battle rifle, is good for a lot of things. But I don't think it's the number one pick for survival. And here's why it's not my first choice. So there's a bunch of different calibers these come in. I also did a podcast called the AK versus the AR-15. You might want to listen to that to get some more nuanced. But the most common one in America today is the AR-15 in 223 Remington or 5.56 NATO. I know they're not exactly the same, but for the purposes of this podcast, they're similar enough. They were designed to cause pretty nasty wounds. They weren't designed to kill right away. They were designed to cause pretty nasty wounds, and they do that. But for survival, that might not be what you want. So I've done a lot of hunting. I've hunted everything from gray squirrels on the East Coast to prairie dogs on the West Coast, and big giant elk and wolf and bear and all manner of things. So I know a little bit about hunting, and I've hunted plenty with a 223. But 223 was originally designed as like a varmint cartridge. It's great for like coyotes and prairie dogs. But if you've ever shot anything in real life with it, you know that it gives some pretty horrific meat damage. And if I'm in a survival situation and I want to use that meat, I don't want that. I don't want to shoot a gray squirrel with a 223, because if my goal is to use the meat, I've kind of defeated that purpose. So it's kind of not a great round for that. And you might say, well, deer. And yes, you can take deer with 223. I've hunted with people that hunt with 223. Again, it's not my first choice, and like I said, it wasn't designed to give an immediate kill. That's not what that round was designed for. With some specialty ammo, with some better ammo, and ammo for that round has come a long way with like your 77 grain or your 60 something grain soft point. It can be a decent anchoring deer round. But here's the thing: if you have that rifle, you probably don't shoot it with that ammo all the time, and different ammo has to be zeroed. If you zero it with 55 grain Walmart ammo, the quintessential like Winchester white box, which is decent ammo, or the Federal American Eagle 55 grain, you think you're going to go out and hunt a deer and shoot it with a 77 grain, different ammo doesn't shoot in the same place, so that's not going to work. So if you're going to have a dedicated deer gun, a dedicated deer ammo, then it's not a great choice for that. And unless you're going to run the 77 grain stuff all the time, which you're probably not because it's very expensive, it's not a great round for that. You might say, well, you just take and shoot the deer in the head, which I'm not saying I've never shot a deer in the head. I'm not going to say I have or haven't, but let's just say I've shot a lot of deer. And the thing about that makes an AR-15 or a battle-style rifle different is it's designed to hit a man-sized target, a chest-sized target, a big target. So the thing about a deer is if I want to shoot a deer in the head or right in the kill zone in the heart, I need it to stop right then or very close. Because if I shoot the deer and it dies a day later, that doesn't really do me any good, because if I'm in a survival situation, I've wasted an entire day and all those calories tracking it down, or I don't find it at all and buzzards get it, and I've just wasted ammo and time, and I've just killed an animal needlessly. So it's not great for that. They're designed to hit a big target, and they're very accurate, but here's the thing. There's something called height over bore. Without getting too nerdy about you, there's something called max ordnance, where the bullet never actually rises above the bore line, but it rises in relationship to the sights. And since the sights are so much higher, the bullet has to rise a lot and fall a lot, which if you're shooting a man-sized target from 50 meters to 300 meters is not a big deal. But if I'm trying to shoot something in the head, it's a very big deal. If you've ever done any CQB training with ARs, you know that you actually have to aim off the target at close distances to hit the target, because it's got such a high height over bore. And that is really a problem if you're trying to shoot a deer in the head at different distances. Generally, if you're hunting in a survival situation, you're moving and you're not going to have time to... It's one thing if you're sitting on a stand and you know exactly what range something's at and you can use your laser rangefinder or whatever, but there's such a disparity between where the bullet hits and where the sights are on most combat rifles that judging that on the fly for a headshot on a deer, which is a pretty small target, what I'm saying is it's a tricky thing, and I don't think it's a good choice for that. So let's moving on. You get the same problem with the AK-47. Now the 7.62 by 39 is a great intermediate cartridge. I'd say better for all-around survival than the 223. It's got good ballistics. But again, if you're running that cheap Wolf even worse, cheaper Tula ammo in it. The cheap, full metal jacket ammo, that's not a great hunting round for anything. And you're probably not running the more expensive stuff in it. And if you are and you switch back and forth, you're probably not taking a hammer and knocking the sights on your AK back and forth. So again, you get the same problem. The other issue is the same thing, height over bore. So it was designed to hit a man-sized target. And it does that. The AK is great for that, hitting man-sized target out to 300 yards quickly. That's what it was designed for. It was not, again, that height over bore is not an issue in a combat scenario, but it is an issue if you're trying to hit a small target at varying distances, especially close distances. So you got that issue going for you. Now hunting is only, part of what might come into survival. The other part is defense. Now, obviously those guns were built for combat, and they do that great. But if you're talking about a survival scenario, and like you heard in my bio, I've been to war a few times. If you're envisioning like a battlefield scenario with multiple combatants, engaging various targets at various distances rapidly, then yeah, the battle rifle, the AR-15, the AK-47 is preeminent for that. That's why it's the number one and number two things on the battlefield that you're going to find, because it's the best for that. But is that the most realistic scenario for a survival situation and whatever you might face? And be honest, this is not Red Dawn, as awesome as the movie Red Dawn is. We're not running around, with Cubans parachuting out of the sky. That's probably not the scenario you're going to find yourself in. You've heard my bio, you've heard my thing, and I can count on both hands the number of gunfights I've been in my life. Okay, I cannot recall the amount of times that I've had to eat in my life, but it's certainly way, way more. I have to eat every day. And I don't have to eat every day. I've gone days without eating, but generally I need to eat every day, especially for long-term sustainability. I need to eat every day. So and neither one of those rifles does that great. So for those reasons, I would not make it first. Like I said, for the straight battlefield weapon, yeah, obviously that's why we use them on the battlefield, because they're the best for that. But is that the most likely survival scenario for you in your life, or what you think is going to happen? If everything gets crazy and there's some kind of collapse or partial collapse, even then, do you picture battlefields with, fields of Russians doing buddy rushes at you, or Cubans dropping out of the sky? Do you think that's the most realistic scenario? I would say probably not. Now, is the AR-15 AK-47 good for home defense? Good for, somebody breaking in? Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Great for that. Nothing wrong with it at all. But also, a shotgun is as well. And a shotgun is better for hunting. So I would pick the shotgun. It's a better tool for the job. I'm very blessed to have, a SCAR 17 hanging out in my living room. I have some very nice ARs, very reliable ARs. I have those things, and you know what is next? I have very blessed to have several STIs, which is a very high end, very nice competition / duty handgun that I use. I have more than one of those. I'm very blessed. But you know what stays next to my bed for when something happens at night? If something happens, an old beat up Remington 870 that I bought at a pawn shop for $150. Who knows how many years ago? Because it's the best tool for the job. If that is the best tool for the job. So, just because something's fancier and black and tactical does not make it a better tool for the job. So, for those reasons, I did not put it first on the list. You may disagree, that's fine. Leave comments, post about why the AR-15 is the greatest thing that was ever invented if you want. That's cool. I like the AR-15. You heard my job. I do it day to day, and the number one long rifle, we carry long rifles. The number one that I carry, I generally carry an AR-15. Sometimes I carry the SCAR 17, the SCAR Heavy, because mission dependent. It's a better tool for the job. But generally, mostly because of the weight, I carry a lightweight AR-15 day to day. Especially with everything going on with civil unrest and rioting and everything like that. Good tool for the job. But for all-around survival, I would not put it high on the list. But they are so popular and are so prevalent that I put them number 3 on here. So let's talk about, like I said, I did a whole episode on the AR-15, AK-47. There's a lot of other battle rifles. I would say that a decent choice for a battle rifle, great for survival, would be the Mini 14/Mini 30. I'd say the Mini 30 would be better than the Mini 14. But either one, I did some police work where I was kind of a range master in charge of the armory, which was awesome. And I often preferred the Mini 14 over the AR-15. I know people will say that's heresy or whatever. The mag changes are slower, but generally that's not an issue in an actual gunfight. So I like the Mini 14. You get those advantages that you get with the battle rifle, most of the time, and you don't get that height over bore issue. It's kind of designed like a more classic hunting rifle. It's designed after the M1A, the M14, which in turn is designed after the M1 Garand, which has a more classic style. It points a little bit better, at least for me. It's a much more natural pointing gun. You don't have that height over bore issue, so it's easier to say hit a jackrabbit running at 35 yards than it is with an AR-15, because you have to calculate that in your head and decide how much far under the rabbit you're going to shoot, or how far over the rabbit you're going to shoot, in addition to how much you're going to lead it. It's just easier for that. And it doesn't look as scary, which you might think is and sometimes maybe it is a disadvantage, but sometimes maybe you want to look like nobody's better mess with me because I don't want any trouble. But sometimes you may kind of want to blend in more, and those Mini 14s, Mini 30s kind of look more like a classic rifle, which might not put as many people on edge, and they're just as effective. If you've never looked at a Mini 14, Mini 30, I'd give those a look. They're great guns. You got all kind of others. You got all the bullpup designs, and I've shot bullpups, and I'll be honest, I kind of like them. But I have so much time and experience in training running AR-15 and those kind of ergonomics. That's why I continue to run those. I just have so much practice and training on them. It's and not to be cliche, but it's kind of like an extension of my body. Like, I don't have to think about it. I know what the bolt sounds like when it runs on an empty chamber and it gets locked back. I don't even have to look. Like, I know it's out of ammo. I threw a new mag in it and I spanked the side of it and I'm ready to go again. It just happens. And I'm not going to fight all those years and all those thousands of rounds of training. I think the AK-47 is a great gun. I picked one up in Iraq when I was over there, mostly because I didn't have a ton of confidence in the M16s we had, because mine literally had a catastrophic malfunction. But I just have way more training in the AR-15. But in a survival scenario situation, the AK-47 is a great gun. It's got a great round. It's like the epitome of rugged reliability and being very forgiving of negligence. So I would say that's a great gun for all kinds of stuff. And on that line, I would say better for all-around survival is the SKS. Now, when I was a boy growing up in the rural South, we were pretty poor, and a lot of people around us were pretty poor. And I remember quite prolifically many, many people, myself and my friends included, hunting with SKS, because you could pick one up for, $79, $120. Those days are gone. But an SKS is a remarkable design. It does all those things that the Mini 30 does. It's got that more classic design. It's not going to put anybody on edge like a scary black rifle, I'm being sarcastic, will. And it is good for hunting. Like I said, it's got those sights right above the bore, so you don't run into those issues trying to shoot small targets or trying to get in the kill zone of a deer. I think the sights are better. I wouldn't say they're better on like a modern urban environment than the AK-47, but I would say they're definitely much better for an all-around survival tool. I would say the sights on the SKS are far better. And you can even get some that have like flip-up, crude, like quick acquisition night sights, and there's all kinds of different designs of SKSs. So I would say the SKS is probably a better all-around survival gun than the AK-47. They're just as rugged, they're just as reliable. They have a very good piston system, which I'm not going to nerd out on you, but it's a very rugged, reliable system. It's a great gun. So I would say look at the SKS too. And next we'll talk about the full battle rifle, the full powered cartridge, which all the cartridges you talked to up till now, they're what's called an intermediate cartridge. They're halfway between a full power rifle cartridge and a pistol cartridge, which is great for a lot of things. But as I mentioned, I'm very blessed to have a SCAR 17, and it's a great gun. And sometimes that's my go-to long rifle for my work. If I'm doing Overwatch, if I'm doing a mission where I want one good anchoring round, vehicle rammings are a real-world threat in today's environment, especially for my job. So if I'm dealing with something where that might be an issue, that's a better tool for the job. If I'm doing something where I might have to shoot into let's just say if I want to stop something from happening with one shot right away, the 308, 7.62 by 51 NATO, or any similar full power battle cartridge is the best tool for that job. If I want a high volume of accurate, powerful fire, the full power battle rifle does that. Now I have both an M1A and a SCAR 17. I know people love the M1A. Like I said, I have one. It was my first competition. It was the first rifle I competed with. It was an M14 decommissioned military one, so it wasn't full auto or anything. It was just a decommissioned M14, but they're a great rifle. They're not a SCAR 17. You can, before all the gun craziness happened, you could get an M1A for $1,500 or less. SCAR 17 is going to cost you way more than that, $4,000 or $5,000, maybe more right now. So you're talking a big disparity in price. So until you're good enough to take advantage of it, I wouldn't go crazy on that. But there's other ones too, but those are the big two. But a full power battle rifle is great, and it's great for a lot of things. Now that is great. The 308 is a great round for anchoring deer. It's a great all around hunting round for big game. It'll kill any big game in North America, and it's probably arguably the best for any big game in North America, or as good as anything else. So it's got that going for it. Aside from like a charging grizzly bear, it's probably one of the best cartridges all around for anything in North America. So it's great for that. The only issue is in a survival situation, and I've done a lot of deer hunting. I've taken more deer than I can remember. I'm very humbled and blessed to have been able to hunt all over, and the 308 does it great. The 308 is a great round. It anchors large animals. Unlike the 223 that's designed to wound, it is designed to stop a living thing quickly. And you want that for hunting if you want to find it, need it. But in a survival situation, any deer hunter will tell you, hunting large game is not an all the time, everyday thing. And if I'm on the move, deer are hard to shoot if I'm got a bunch of crap on me and I'm trying to hike from one place to another, which is very likely in a survival scenario. And if I do happen upon a deer and I get a good shot and I take a deer and I'm trying to move from one place to another, now I have, 80, 120 pounds of meat depending on where I am in the country and how big the deer are, mule deer or whitetail deer or even something bigger. And if I'm trying to move from one place to another, I'm kind of wasting a bunch of meat because I probably have a bunch of crap on me, and I probably don't want to add more weight on me because there's a limit to how much weight you can carry. Rucking with a lot of weight, packing a lot of weight sucks. So how much meat am I going to carry with me, and how am I going to preserve it until it goes bad? So I've just shot a bunch of meat in a survival scenario. Maybe not the best thing to do if I'm moving around. If I'm like at a cabin or something, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if we're talking about moving from one place to another, I probably already have as much stuff as I can reasonably carry, and I probably need it or I wouldn't be carrying it. So it's good for that, but I wouldn't put it as number one. The other thing is they're heavy. My SCAR Heavy, which is one of the reasons I bought it, it's one of the lightest, even though it's called SCAR Heavy because it's more powerful. It's one of the lightest full power battle rifles. It comes at 7.7 pounds, which is pretty reasonable. But it is fairly heavy compared to an AR, and the ammo is heavier. And my M1A, a full size M1A M14 style rifle is gonna weigh almost 12 pounds. It weighs like 11 pounds and change. It's a freaking heavy rifle, especially when you can get a decent AR. The M16A1 weighed like 6 pounds. You're talking double the weight. And weight's a real thing. If I was talking about a battle rifle for a real survival situation, if I had to pick a battle rifle, which again would not be my first choice, I would pick my SCAR 17. I would pick a SCAR 17, and that might be an option, might not be an option for you. I'm very blessed I saved up and sold a lot of guns to get that SCAR 17. It was an expensive gun. I'm very blessed to have it. But that might be out of your reach. But I would take a full power battle rifle over anything else, because if I'm in an actual situation, in a survival situation, and I need to survive, I like that heavier round. I like that 308. You know, what if I'm trying to stop a vehicle, like I alluded to earlier? 308 is better for that. If I am trying to take a big game animal, 308 anchors better. You know, if I'm in a fight, I want that fight to be ended quickly. It's not a battlefield where if I injure somebody, medics are going to come take him away, and wounding somebody is just as good as killing somebody. If I'm against some radical whatever ideology group and their entire goal is to kill as many people as they can before they die, I want to stop them from doing bad things right now. And if I wound them and they can still continue, that's not really great for me. So the 223 is not as desirable for that as a 308. So for me, if you're talking about a battle rifle for a survival situation, I would get a full power battle rifle, whether that's, you know, an M1A, an M14 style, whether that's a SCAR, whether it's I didn't talk about the AR-10, which is basically, it was actually originally a 308 rifle that the military wanted in 223, but they make what you would call an M16 AR-15 style rifle in 308. It's the original version, the AR-10. And those are great. They're not super heavy. They do require a little bit more maintenance, but they're a great choice. They're not super heavy, and I would say that would be a better choice for me for all-around survival than an AR-15, and it's got the same ergonomics if you're used to it. Don't underestimate the older stuff like the M1 Garand. Wouldn't be my first choice, but it wouldn't be my last choice either. It's a full-power cartridge. It's a great hunting cartridge. It's got great sights. It might only hold 8 rounds or whatever, but you know, in real world, if you're unless you're a psychopath, you're not going out and trying to kill a bunch of people, which I hope nobody listening to this is that person. If you have to get in a defensive gunfight where you're protecting yourself, generally those are settled in less than 8 rounds, less than 10 rounds. And you should be able to own whatever size magazine you want. I don't believe in any prohibition on that, but in general, if you can't get it done with, 5, 10 rounds, you probably can't get it done with 20 or 30. You should probably worry about hitting your target. So I wouldn't give it a big disadvantage for that. So I would say for all-around survival, the battle rifle, if I was going to go with it, I would go for a full power cartridge. I would give up carrying a few less rounds for having that more power for all kinds of reasons. Barrier penetration, stopping vehicles that are trying to ram people, for taking large game, for stopping a fight right away. For those reasons, I would pick that. Whatever your pick is, let me know. Let me know. I'm sure there's a ton of people that are going to disagree and say the AK-47, the AR-15 is the only way to go for all-around survival weapon. I'm just telling you why I didn't pick it first, but I think that everybody should own one. Hopefully you're not in the scenario where you only have to have one rifle. That would be a sad day when if I could only have one long gun and maybe 1 or 2 handguns. That's not the scenario I want to be in. I think everybody should own one. They're a lot of fun to shoot. Especially AR-15s are great for training new shooters. They don't have a lot of recoil. They're very forgiving. They're a lot of fun, and until recently, they were very affordable for what you got for the money. Just economy of scale. There were so many made and so many companies making them that you could get such a good gun for such a low price. Oh man, I think about right before this whole crunch happened. I already had a lower receiver, but I pretty much bought everything else in a kit, the entire gun, for under $300. I don't remember if it was $300, like $299 or like $399. Anyway, great rifle, the entire thing except the lower receiver. Obviously, I put an optic on it, but nowadays you're looking at who knows how much for a decent, AR-15 style rifle. Let's hope that the guns and ammo come back in price soon, so every American has one. And if you don't, like I said, I think every American should. I haven't bought any guns recently. I mentioned last night that I'm glad because I have enough. Obviously you always want more, but I have enough guns. If you don't have a good survival battery in a few of these different guns, or if you don't have any gun at all, I would encourage you even now to go get something. Now's not the time to be unarmed. There's a lot of stuff going on, and hopefully you never need it. I hope to never need one again for anything other than training and doing my job and hunting, obviously, and just the joy of shooting. But if you need one and you don't have one, there's really no substitute. So get out there. Thanks for listening to Gunfighter Life. Go out and train. The training and the practice is more important than the tool. So as always, go out there, be good men and women. Train often. Don't ever let anything compromise your morals and being a good Christian man. And thanks for listening to Gunfighter Life.